Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for an introduction to Microsoft Teams, the next generation of collaboration. My name is Gabriel Riera, and I'm the marketing specialist here at Corporate Renaissance Group. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sending it out to all participants later in the week. We welcome your questions, so please type them into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the session. And today's discussion is specific to Teams and requires an Office 365 subscription. And all right, without delay, I'm happy to introduce to you our presenter, Elizabeth Brown. She's Sierra Group's Senior SharePoint Specialist and works with clients to set up, configure, upgrade, and customize their SharePoint systems. She has over 10 years of experience working in IT, focusing on system analysis and applications development and support. And in addition to her SharePoint and Dynamics CRM, she has extensive experience with web-based technologies and SQL databases. So, all right, Elizabeth, over to you.
All right. Welcome, everyone. So we're just going to discuss the agenda for today. So this webinar is going to discuss what Teams is. There was the recent announcement from Microsoft that they feature parity with Skype, so we'll discuss that a little bit. Then we're going to show you how to use it, and then we're going to demo a few cool features. So what is Teams? So Teams, it's the hub for team collaboration in Office 365 that integrates people, content, and tools. So basically the idea with Teams is that it's like the one place, and here you have everything that you need to collaborate with your coworkers or external outside employees as well, like guest users as they're called here. So for the architecture for Teams, every team will have one channel, at least one channel for instant messaging. There's going to be a central location to access all team-related items. So you have a central file storage area. There's going to be a sort of centralized display, so if you want to add some dashboards or links to other items, including Jira and other non-Microsoft products, you can do that. There's going to be an email and a calendar, so you can schedule team meetings. And the useful thing is if you're using Outlook yourself, with the team calendar, you can have an overlay. And so you can look and see your own calendar and then the team calendar overlaid on that. Every team has a SharePoint site collection to store the team documents. So as you may be aware, in August, Microsoft announced that Teams has now reached feature parity with Skype. So it's not perfect. There's a few things that are still supposed to come. These generally are relating to like sort of enterprise telephone options that you can do in Skype that you can't quite do in Teams. They are on the roadmap. So there are a few limitations. Depending on how you're using Skype, you might actually be able to transition to Teams. You may not, though, if you have a lot of enterprise phone features, such as like call park and group call pickup. So those are in the works, they're in the roadmap. Okay, so let's take a look. So basically with Teams, there's three variants of it. There's a desktop application, there's a web browser version, and then you can also get a mobile phone version. We won't be able to show you the phone version today just because of the difficulties of getting it on the screen. But we'll show you the other two. So what this is here is this is the desktop application. So basically, when you come here and you have this little icon, you click on it, and then it will open up. And so you're in Teams, and what you see is there's sort of a bar across here where it's telling you activity, chat, team, meetings, files. So there's sort of that navigation. And then along the top, you've got sort of a search bar. So if you want to search within Teams, you can. There's your sort of presence here, which is just telling you that, yes, you're not in a meeting, so you're available. So here this is the team, and then there's basically what they're called channels. And so this is a social team. It's designed to sort of allow everyone in the company to come and talk about different social events. So there's like a general one. There's a suggestion, say, for if people want to suggest different team events. And then there's team building events where they're cutting pictures from various items and sort of messages broadcast about different events. So in terms of, this is the chat function, so how would you use it? So you can just basically come in here and you can start typing. So you can type like that. And then if you wanted to, there's some other options. So you can actually, say, put in like a little smiley face or something like that. And then basically, there's this little send here, and that's going to send. So you can hit it that way, and then that will send it to everyone. And so that means that everyone on the team is going to see this. So if I switch over, and so this is using the web browser version, and so this is just the office.com landing page. If you click on Teams here, it's going to take you into the Teams site. And then it's just checking the credentials and logging me in. And then it will load it. And so, again, sometimes you just have to wait for things to load up here. I have it open. So you can see that it's actually logged in over here with the DH, but this is a different user. And so if I go into the activity, you can see that there's that I've been added to the team, so it shows you some of the activity. And if I'm looking here, you can see how the suggestions is in bold and the other ones aren't. So it's just letting me know that something has changed in suggestions. So if I click on that, then I can see this response. And so now I can actually respond. And so I can just respond like this and hit enter or hit the little send button, and that's just going to respond. So when I did this, because I just did it here down at the bottom, that's actually just creating a brand new message. On the other hand, if I wanted to, I could have clicked here and replied directly and said, too cold, and then that's going to reply there. So it's going to come underneath. So when you're responding, you can either respond directly, reply to a message, and it's going to show sort of underneath, or create a new one. And I don't know if you saw it. There was just a pop-up here that, and then you can actually hopefully see down on the bottom of my screen how the Teams is sort of flashing, and there's like a little 1 in a red circle. That's letting me know that there was a response, that Doug had replied to me. If you just done like this, it won't actually show up the same way. And the suggestions isn't in bold because it went directly there, but I did see that, hey, there's these new messages here. So now let's go here and see if this is actually really what you want Microsoft to do when you're in the middle of a webinar. But let's hope this will load this time. Okay, we'll just let that be and see. So if I wanted to do a new conversation, so I'm going to talk to Gabe here. So you see, as I did the @Gabe, it selected him, and this is actually highlighted, so it's found him. And then this just means that he's going to get a direct notification. So I can also add in some Giphies and stuff like that. And there's just a whole bunch of different ones, so I can pick. Here, I'll put in this bowling one. And, oh, that is quite interesting. He got a strike where he didn't expect it. So there we go. And then that would mean he would get a notification that's popping up. I will demo it with an @me from here. So you can kind of see, again, how that works. And then you see I got this little mention you bar come up here. So that's what Gabe would have gotten when I said that to him. He's there, so you get more little interactive going on because things can come up and you can add images and Giphies. If you're worried about bandwidth and people playing around with files and not working as much as you want, and you feel like this isn't actually useful, you can actually turn this off, all these fun features, the GIFs and the images and stuff, so that people won't be able to spend a lot of time just throwing lots of GIFs in there. If you think it is useful and helpful, you can definitely just leave it enabled. Again, so you see this is flashing, and you can see how this has come up here, and it's got this little @ sign over here. That's just saying that, hey, you've been mentioned, so this was a mention to you. And then, again, if I reply to this, just saying how funny I think the Giphy is, then that's going to, it doesn't, so then you can see it comes up here that he's got a reply in the web browser. When you're using the desktop client, you do get slightly better notifications than you do in the web browser, because the web browser, you have to kind of be on the page to see it. So if you can use the desktop application, it has a few more features. So because we've been sort of discussing this, one of the things you can do is you can actually have an add-in with SurveyMonkey to show things really easily. So basically, if I do @SurveyMonkey, and then just grab that there, and I can do ask, and then I'll put in next social send, and then I could do, so basically you just put the various answers in the quotation marks. So so just like that, I had to basically put ask, and then just the question, and then the various answers, as long as they're all in quotation marks like that. And then the SurveyMonkey should come up and create that survey for me. So oh, is it not connected? Okay, so because I can't remember my password, I'm going to have to skip that for now, unfortunately. I'll try and come back to it later. But once you have that connection, it will actually respond. So with this social team, as you can see, that there's sort of various channels and ways to talk. If you can see along the top how it's got this sort of public here, and so in SharePoint and in Office 365, there's public and private teams, and the idea behind them is the public ones is basically any member can add anyone, right? So if I'm logged in over here and I'm in as Doug, he can actually, because even though he's not the owner of this team, he can actually just go to the social and say, I want to add a member, because it's a public team. So he can just say, actually, I think Natalie should be part of this, and just add her in like that. So public teams are good where you want everyone to have access. It's something that's company-wide. It's not very secret information, because anyone can just add anyone. And it's stuff you just want lots of input and lots of people involved in it. On the other hand, I can actually create a team that's called a private team. And so this is going to be the sales team. And so you see down here in private, on the privacy, it says only team owners can add members. So basically, when you, this is because I'm going to be the owner of this team, it's going to be more restricted. So I can start adding some members here. So put in Doug and Matt, and I'll add Gabe in as well. Just adding them. And then when I add them, I can also specify the role. So I can specify whether I want them to be added as a member or an owner. If I add them as an owner, they'll have more access. They'll be able to add people, but members can only come in and use the team. So I'm just going to add them all as members. And now you see this team has been created. It's sales here. It's got a general channel by default. And then it just says down here in the conversations who's been added. And so when I log in as another user, So if I go back to Doug, you can see when I come in here that he's got the sales team, he's got the general channel, and if I go into the activity, it's actually shown up in the activity here that he's been added to this team, and as well as the reply that I had made to him earlier. So if I go into this team here, you can see that this welcome page has changed. As Doug, I can create more channels. I can open the FAQ if I have some questions. But when I go into the social landing page, then I have more options because I can add people, I can create more channels, and I can open the FAQ. But in the sales, all I can do is just talk to everyone. So this is useful for if you do want to talk to everyone within the team. But if you don't want to talk to everyone in the team, if for some reason you just wanted to have a one-on-one conversation, that's what the chat is used for. So you can go over here to chat, and you can see it says have private conversations. And if you see this little private chat and calling link, so if you click on that, and then it will bring up this little sort of walkthrough, and you can play it, and it will kind of tell you, here's how you start chat and how you make calls, and here are the different options about it. So if you're kind of using it and you're not sure what to do, there is a lot of FAQs and help built into it. It's also here in Teams as well, where they have this open, the FAQ. So it's telling you what Teams is, who can use it, how to sort of, what does it mean to be ad mentioned, as I was sort of demonstrating before. So there's a whole bunch of different options here. So if I go back to the chat here, so if you click here, you see this little one, that's the new chat icon. So then I can have a sort of one-on-one. So I'll just start talking. And so something that you might not want to share with the whole group. And then again, you can see this little pop-up came up here. And again, on the Teams icon, there's that little one in the red. So I can actually just hit reply like that and send a quick reply. And then you can see that that's going to show up there. So if I said, okay, well, they have changed about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach a file with the new credentials. If you have it in your OneDrive, you can just load it directly from your OneDrive, or you can upload from your computer. So I'm just going to put this attachment on, and then I can just go like that, and then they're going to go up here. So then they're sending the attachment. And then I can actually go, oh, right, I want to maybe edit this and say, hey, and then just resend it, so that if there's something, you put up there and you're like, actually, wait, I want to add it, you can go and edit them. I can also come in here and delete it, so that if I posted something that I didn't want to be there, then I can delete it. So if I come and delete this one, I will say, hey, this message has been deleted. I can also undo that, and then it will reappear. So when this file has been shared here, because I uploaded it from my local hard drive, what has actually happened is it's going to be shown up here in the file because it's shared with Doug, so he's going to see it here. So he will also see it there as well, and I will see it here in the files. And the actual location is, it's going to actually be stored in the local OneDrive associated with that user and set to be shared with that user. So everything that you get shared, it doesn't just get sort of lost. It is actually added to your OneDrive, so that then you can go back and look at it. And also if so you can have links to it. You can open it in Word. You can edit it in Teams as well. So if you sort of were cutting something here and you realized you needed to make a small sort of change to it, you can just come in and edit it directly. It's got sort of Word Online type level. There's a bunch of features. It's not quite the same as Word, but you still have a lot of options in here. The other option, of course, is I can actually come in here and say I want to open it in Word, or I can open it in Word Online if I don't actually have the desktop version. And it is, of course, giving me, because it's trying to open it in my Internet Explorer where I'm logged in as a different user who I haven't shared it with. So that's how you can sort of share files within a chat, and then everything gets stored in your OneDrive and shared with the user. Now, what happens is if we're having this chat and we want to add people, so what we can do is we can go and add a person to this chat. So I can go and sort of add Gabe to this. And so you can see what happened is it actually says you're starting a new conversation. So the stuff that was going on between Doug and me, that like this conversation here, remains private, and it just adds a brand new conversation. And because I didn't add anything, it actually removed it. So what happens is you see it's actually starting a new conversation, and now there's 2 participants. So you can have multiple participants like that, and it won't actually start until I add a new message. So and then I can just send that off. And so it's because it's been added to people. The other thing is you can come up here and you can name it. So if it's 2 people that you work with quite often and you quite often have conversations, you can say, hey, this is the team sales team. Wow, there's a lot of team in that. And then it's just the 3 people will always be saved here. And then if I want to actually just start chatting to them, when I come up here and do a new chat, instead of having to add the 2 people, I can just go team sales team like that, and it will select the 2 of them. So that can be kind of useful, being able to add that. This little favorite just means you're adding it as a favorite, so it's going to kind of get posted up here, so it's always going to stay up near the top. So whenever you come back into somewhere where you come into the chat, it's sort of stuck up there at the top, and you've always had access to it. So that can be kind of useful. Then you can see over here that it's looking for, it doesn't actually have a camera right now. So you can start doing like a camera share, but you actually have to have a camera installed. You can see that there's an audio call option, so you can sit and select that. And I have muted my speakers because I don't want everyone to get lots of crazy feedback going on with this. But yeah, and they're actually getting a sort of notification that they're being called from the chat. If I come up here into Doug, you can see I'm getting, hey, you're getting called, and you can say, yes, I want to accept it, or I'm just going to decline it. I'm going to try and accept it, and hopefully my audio doesn't go absolutely insane. So it's saying, hey, give access to your camera and mic, and say always allow. For now, I'm just going to continue without it. And then you can see here's a call going on between, actually I think Gabe's in there as well. So it's both with me and Gabe, and Doug's all talking here. And again, it's saying video isn't supported in your browser. Some of the features, again, in the browser, the desktop application of Teams has more options, so you can do more like sharing with video and stuff. This is supposed to be coming fairly soon. You can sort of open the share tray where you can put sort of a PowerPoint in here, and then it's saying, hey, why don't you use the desktop option? And it's saying desktop sharing, you can't do this, but just download Teams and then you can use it. So I'm just going to dismiss that for now. And then there's this 3 little dots, which in the sort of Office 365 world means, hey, here's more options. So if I click on that, you can see there's like recording options, a keypad option, so I can sort of click on some keypads. This, of course, is going to hang up. And so you can have like full call, full screen. If you want it to be much bigger, you can make that smaller. There's a conversation, so there's a chat window going on, so I can type in here, thanks. And then, you know, that's going to sort of be shared to everyone. So if I go back to the desktop where you can see there's like a little, hey, there's new notifications. And then I go to the chat window, I will see it showing up here and sort of a no problem, thanks, welcome from Gabe. You can actually go into the participant panel and say, hey, we want to add some more people to this. So you can say, well, let's add Matt. And now we're calling Matt to see if Matt's going to answer. So there's pretty decent features within here. And then you have sort of audio settings and stuff where you can come in with a little gear here and just sort of set your various settings. And again, it's telling me my speakers are muted, but that's more just for the purposes of the webinar instead of having oodles and oodles of feedback. Let's keep everything muted for now. So I'm going to hang up on this call. So I've left that call. But if I go back over here, you can see this call is still going on. So you can actually kind of specify it. The other thing to notice is up here on the sort of profile picture, it's got a little red dot because you're in a call, so you're no longer available. So it is getting a lot better with Teams about keeping the sort of availability notifications so that, oh, you're in a meeting, you're not available, or yeah, you're free. And so they have improved a lot in the last bit. Okay, so let me just get out of this call again. And then whenever you leave, they're going to say, hey, well, how was the call quality? So you can give it 5 stars or give it 2 stars, sort of, or you can just ignore that completely and dismiss it. And then again, you can see that here, this call came up here so that the call was added quite easily. And it had like when the call started and then the sort of chats that went on within the call and that when, how long it ended and when it went to. And then this little bar here is sort of like the last thread so that anything, if I've gone away and I'm working in the team over here and I come back, that little bar is going to say, oh, this is all the stuff you've seen and then this is new stuff to here, below it, right? So that's some of the chatting features. And so if I go back over here in Teams, you can again do sort of similar stuff with Teams. I can start a new conversation and go new prospect. And that's going to go to everyone in the team. And then I can actually go and say, wait, I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to delete that. So then it's going to remove it. And on the other hand, if I did sort of say, I wanted to do that, and maybe I'm going to like edit this, and then I'm going to, I can click this little paper clip to attach, but the other thing you can actually do is you can drag and drop files. You can actually sort of select a couple and drag and drop them. There is a limit. You can only do 10 like this. Yeah, so now it's picking them up. So you see, it's just taking a moment. It's adding these documents. So what it's actually doing right now is uploading them to the SharePoint site behind, which is going to store all the files for this team. And so now I can just hit enter and send that off. There we go. So you see I had to like scroll a little bit because this one down here is for a new conversation, so I just had to get to the right one for this one here. So sometimes you just have to kind of look at where you are and make sure you're hitting in the right place. So now these 3 documents have been shared, and if I go to File, then they're going to be, see you have the 3 files here, and that's going to be shared with everyone in the team. So this is Doug, but if I go to the client here and I go into the sales team and I go click on File, then they're all going to be here, right? So basically you can see that there's like a new option here. So if you want to add a new file, you can do that. You can say, hey, I want a new Word document, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint. You can upload files. You can get links to share. You can add cloud storage, which basically, if you do that, says, I want to add another SharePoint area, or Dropbox, or Box, or Google Drive, or ShareFile. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Microsoft. You can just add files from other locations. You just have to configure the links between them. And then this open in SharePoint, when you click on that, and then I'm just waiting for a second. So you see it actually, and then because this is the first time it comes here, it's telling you this is the new document library experience in SharePoint. So it's just saying, hey, here's some new stuff. You can click through it or you can just exit it. And then, so then you can see here it is. It's got the 3 files there in SharePoint. Again, if you know what SharePoint's like, you can click on the files and open them in there. I'm just going to close this. That just opened it in the browser web app. It's got some like new upload, share, bunch of different options here as well. It's telling you who the team members are, so who has access to this. If I click on the home, I'm not sure how many people are aware of what SharePoint looks like, but this is the sort of modern team site. So it's the new look where it's got a different feel. It is nice because you see as I'm making this smaller, it is quite responsive. So you can look at it on a phone, you can look at it on a tablet, you can look at it on your computer with a big screen, and it's just automatically going to be sized. So you don't need to worry about that. And so, again, it's just, if you click on the documents, what you'll see is that there's this general folder, and that's going to store all the documents that were shared in the general channel, right? Because I only have one channel here. If for whatever reason I said, actually, you know what, this is a sales team, I want to add a channel, I'm going to call this prospects. And so basically just like that, that's going to add the channel. And then it just allows you to have different groupings. So if it's something general sales, they want to talk about it here. But if it's something prospects, we want to talk about it here. Maybe we're going to add another channel and we'll say, hey, any support issues we want to just sort of put in there. And now there's different channels. As you can see, the channels are sort of disappearing. And when I look at social, they sort of stay. What happens with social is I favorite them. So basically, you just come over here, you click this little star, and then I can actually go to one more, and I can just favor them. And then because they've been favored, then they're not going to disappear. They're always just going to sort of be there. And so what has happened now that I've created these different channels where you're sort of segregating the chat is in the SharePoint side, when I come in here, you can see that there's been a folder created for each channel. So all the documents are going to be segregated based on the channel. So anything shared in the general will be in here, and then I can just click back on documents, and prospects would only have documents that were shared in the prospect channel. One of the things that does come up sometimes is sort of security trimming within a team, and it's not possible to do that on the channels. If someone, you can't create a channel for prospects and say, we only have, even though the sales team is 20 people, we have 5 people working on prospects and 5 people on support, so we want to sort of segregate the people and say only these 5 people can have access to prospects. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You have to, if someone has access to the team, they're going to have access to all the channels. That's just sort of the way that SharePoint's going to work. So again, when I come in here and if I go into the general and I go over to the files, you can actually just open the document straight in here. And then there's like a little Teams editor, so I can edit right in Teams if I want to, or I can choose Word or Word Online. So you don't need to use the SharePoint at all because all your files are right here in Teams. So there is the Open in SharePoint option, but you can kind of just ignore it if you don't want to deal with that part and just work straight within here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the SharePoint site. One of the things I mentioned earlier in sort of the agenda was that within Teams itself, there's also an Outlook behind. So if I go click on the conversations, and then just wait a second. So it's actually going to go to your email, and then what will happen is in your email itself, in your Outlook, especially in the browser client, you'll have this Groups tab, and then you'll see that there's the Sales tab. And so that's going to have the calendar as well. And so when you're in the SharePoint site and you click on the conversations, that's going to take you into the Outlook aspect of the team. So this gets all created when you create the team. It creates this calendar, which can be useful because then you can have all your meetings in here, and then you can see that there's a bunch of overlays, right? So you can overlay it on your own. And it also has links again to the files, which will show up here when they show up. Sorry, my Internet Explorer is very slow, and this is using Internet right now. Internet Explorer, I mean. My Chrome is working much, much better. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Anyway, so this is going to be the Teams chat, and what will happen is when it gets created, is there's an email address associated with the team, so I could do sales at, and then so then it found it, and so then I can do so then just send that, and then what that's going to happen is that's going to show up here in the Teams, and then again, it's just telling me all sorts of new things popping up, but that will show up here in the Teams email, and everyone who's within that team will also receive that email. It's just all new stuff. So you see this new support call has come up. Oh, right, it would have done it if I put the address in all the way, sorry. Because it was prompting me that it had actually found it, but it seems like it hadn't, so. Yeah, actually, you can see that time how it's highlighted properly, so it has picked it up. And then just send that off. Should have picked it up. Okay. Okay, I'm not quite sure why that's not working out properly. It should be sending, but because it did highlight it. So it could be because I just created it and Microsoft is still doing something on the behind scenes, and that's why it's not sending it properly to that team. But generally, it does get sent to the team, and then everyone will receive it. So going back to Teams itself, as we mentioned in the sort of agenda, is that it can actually act as a sort of hub for all your content. And one of the ways it can do that is within the team, you see along the top of the tabs, there's the conversations where you can have chats with people, and files where it's storing any files that you want to share with the team. And then there's the Wiki here as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But when I click Add a Tab, so I can add a whole bunch of things. So if you have a Power BI dashboard, you can kind of connect that in here, and then everyone can just click on that tab and see a Power BI dashboard. There's Planner. So if you're using Planner for your team and you have scheduled tasks, you can link it in here and everyone can see it. You can add different SharePoint sites and different documents. And there's a whole bunch of third-party add-ins. So you can add things like Adobe and GitHub and Jira, and so there's MailClark and a whole lots and lots. As you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different options you can add. So let me just shut that down. So one of the things I can also do is if I pick one of these documents, like this attachment one here, if for whatever reason I say, actually, I want everyone to really see this document front and center, if I go click on these three dots, there's this make this a tab option, so I'm going to click on that, and then that puts the document up here as a tab, and then you can come in and see it. So basically, every time anyone comes into this channel, there's this attachment right here as a tab, and they can get into that document really quickly and see it, and it's sort of very front and center. If I decide that actually, you know what, we're finished with this, we don't need it here, I can just remove it. I can rename it as well. There's some settings. You can sort of move it around and play around with that, but we'll just leave that for now. The tabs is sort of based on sort of how many you want to see up here, but it is a good way of just kind of putting content from different locations, linking to Jira, whatever, right in one spot. So that can be quite useful. So the wiki, which I sort of skipped over, it's basically just sort of page names where you have different sections and you can sort of format it and put various content in here. So there's basic formatting up here. You can add links to various things. You can put sort of insert images, put in a table. You can add more sections so that there's various sections, and then once you have the sections, you can sort of move them around. Change the order. You can say, I want to move this up, move it down. If you click over here, you can actually go, I want to put a whole new page, so it's going to put another page here. And then you have more sections, and then you can basically just click back and forth. It's just sort of a way of putting notes quite quickly, and then everyone can come in and see it and just kind of type things quickly. It could be useful. It kind of depends on what you're using the team for. If you say, actually, I don't really want to see this, you can remove the wiki link, and then it's just going to say, telling you it's going to be permanently removed, because I'm just saying, actually, for our team, it doesn't make sense to have it. If it does make sense, you can leave it there and use it as you need to. So that's sort of how you can aggregate content and have all your content show up in sort of one place quite easily and be fairly accessible to people. Functionality you can do is in meetings. You can see you can come in here and you can schedule meetings. And then I can just say when it's going to start and put in the details. You can pick a channel and say, actually want to say, you can say none, so that means that anyone can join it, or you can say, actually I want to put it in general, and then I can just start inviting people. So then you can schedule the meeting. And then, so it's saying down here, it's an online meeting, everyone can join online. So that's going to schedule it to start at noon. On the other hand, if I didn't really want to wait until noon, you can, in a channel itself, you can do a meet now. And so basically, it's just down here. This little option is say, hey, meet now. And then I'm just going to go meet now. And then basically, anyone who comes into that channel will see that that's going on. So it's available for the whole team. So I come in, and you see I'm logged in now as Doug, and you can see where it says general, and there's this little camera going, so it's letting me know that, hey, there's a meeting going on. So if I can click in here, I can see meeting started, and I can actually just join right away. And then it's giving me the message about the camera and mic. I'm just going to continue without it and join now. And so now I'm in the meeting. This is a pretty, it is kind of useful because you can meet pretty quickly right on the fly. Everyone who has access to that team can join. If you did want to make it more private, that's where you'd want to use the chat function and have it schedule a call or a meeting through the chat instead. And again, there's a whole bunch of like chatting in here. So and you can make a presenter, and this same sort of very similar functionality. So the conversation's still here. So I can type things. Something like that. And then you can also see I get the notifications that things have been responded to. So And then you have the share tray, which I showed before, and sort of the whole various options. So I'm just going to hang up on this call. And now let me just hang up this one. So I've ended it in both places. And I guess it should be time for questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Elizabeth. That was an excellent presentation, and I hope you guys were able to find it useful and take it on in your organization. We did get a couple questions in. Just go here real quick. And the first one was, what's the future of Skype?
So at the moment, I mean, Microsoft has announced feature parity with Teams and Skype for Business. And this is in the Office 365, so it's in the online world. And it seems like they would like everyone to, you know, move from Skype for Business in the cloud and replace it with Teams. However, if you're using on-premise and you're not planning to go to the cloud, they still have Skype for Business on-premise, and they don't seem like they're ever going to release Teams on-premise. That Teams is only going to be within the cloud. So if you don't plan to move to the cloud, you can continue to use Skype for Business, at least for the foreseeable future.
Perfect. And will there be a version of Teams like Lite where you can remove features that somebody doesn't need?
It's Microsoft would, I think, because they want to change the collaboration and not just like have people email files. They want to have people. They're trying to create this new collaboration environment where you come into Teams and sort of everything is there. There's a site to store your files. Because they're trying to sort of change how people work within email as well. The answer is sort of no, not at this moment. I mean, I guess if there was a lot of user pushback, that might change. But at this point in time, sort of Teams is going to be the whole thing, and there's never going to be a light version of it.
And now in your presentation, you showed the SurveyMonkey and how it integrates with Teams. Are there any other integrations like SurveyMonkey, and can you give an example?
There are other ones. I would have to, it's like sort of bot integrations that SurveyMonkey was there. There are others. I can't give examples off the top of my head because I have to go search for them. They used to have there was one called T-Bot, but they got rid of that. Yes, there are. We have to search for them. There are a number of different integrations like that.
Okay. And there's another one here. They've seen calling, but it wasn't demoed today. Was this feature removed?
No, it is there.
Yeah.
It was just that we don't have because this is just a demo environment. So we can do the calls within the chat. You don't have the calling option because we need to set up the phone system. Because we're doing a demo and we're adding all sorts of people and just doing all sorts of chatting, it's just a demo tenant. So we don't have that phone system enabled. So you see some of the calling, but you won't see all of the calling because we just don't want to use our own actual Office 365 subscription for demoing.
Okay, and one last question here is, can you send a message to two different groups by using two @ signs?
To two different groups? You can message more than one person. So if I was here and I wanted to do and then I could do @Gabe as well. So then they would both get that. So you can definitely do two people. If it was an open channel and everyone had access to it, you could possibly do a different group. Yeah. So you'd have to, if you'd like set it up, because I set up my chat group, which I call Team Sales Team. So if I tried, yeah. You can do it to individuals, but when you're trying to do teams, it doesn't allow you to do mention the team.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, these were all the questions that came up, and that brings us to the end of the presentation. Again, thank you all for joining, and a quick survey will pop up at the end, and so please make sure you share your feedback so that we can keep improving these sessions. And if you have any questions or would like to learn more about your group services, solutions, or anything regarding Microsoft or Teams, I invite you to contact us and or Elizabeth. Again, thank you, and have a great day.